All right guys, this is another one of those cases where I've got to get some work done while also getting some work done. So we're gonna get some work done today. EVGA offers a full range of components including video cards, motherboards, power supplies, cases, and peripherals. Regardless of your needs, EVGA is sure to have you covered. To see what EVGA can do for your next build, head to evga.com. So a lot of you guys have asked me why the test bench is starting to look like it's being cooled by a sperm bank. And well, you know, there's a few things to talk about here. So I figured I'll do a video about this because this has kind of been like a long-term experiment. If you guys remember when I built this back in like, geez, beginning of 2016? The end of 2015, something like that, way back when. This is over 3 years old now with all the same components, never having had a proper flush. There's been plenty of times where I've just drained the fluids out, run some distilled water, threw the new fluids in. It's had View in it, it's had, what's the other one?
We'll be back, folks.
So it started with like distilled water with some colored dye in it. Then it ended up having some of the Mayhem's pastel green in there. Then we had some Mayhem's pastel purple. And then we went back to green again. And then we went to kind of a clear fluid. And then now we're back to this. We're not gonna talk about what fluid this is though. This was a test product that was sent to me that was still early beta. Temperatures have been fine, but we've had some issues with falling out and stuff. So we're not gonna be talking about this because it's not fair to the product or the brand to talk about it because it was never ready for prime time. But what I have to do is I have to flush this system. And let me tell you right now, this is a concentrate. I have already put several gallons through this system and I can't get it to turn clear, which has me feared that it might be built up with some of the blocks and stuff. So I figured, why don't we take this opportunity to sort of take this apart? I've got to change out these tubes. So we've got some nice brand new Primo Chill Flex tube here, which is LRT, which is non-leaching and all that sort of stuff. So this fluid kind of obviously is very milky, but as you can see, the tubes are still pretty clear. And what's amazing about this is, like I said, this is the original tubing. I never changed this tubing out. So there are some parts where it kind of discolored a little bit. You can kind of see right there, it's got some, turned black or something inside. Don't know exactly when that happened because that was mostly facing down. So by rotating the fitting, I could see it. But anyway, I just want to sort of tear this apart. I'm gonna try flushing it some more before I tear it apart. And then if I can't get it to turn clear, then I have no choice but to tear it apart, start running like hot water through the loop, like through the sink or something, because the heat will sometimes break up the sediment. And then start running all of my cleaners through it, all the detergents and stuff to try and get anywhere it's built up in this radiator out of here. But if we have to, we'll take the rad out, take the fittings off, kind of peek in there and see what we've got. But first, we have to see if we can actually get it to turn clear. That's like step one. Yeah, it looks like non-fat milk that's been left out in the sun in the summer. Ooh. Sounds like me after I eat some of the Zendeja burritos. So if you guys want to know how I flush my systems and clean them out like when I'm doing it for reals, then check out my other videos. I've done this a million times. I've talked a million times about how I do this. It's just like, it just doesn't turn clear. Ew.
Dude, it's splashing it everywhere. Yes.
So since the hot water really broke it up, I'm gonna run the rest of this distilled water through it. And then I'm gonna fill this jug with just really hot water from the sink. That's the first time I filled this up right now and it didn't like turn white immediately, huh? But the question is it gonna be clearer than it was? This is how a whale impregnates its partner. We're gonna try the hot water method. It just keeps turning white. Everyone's always asking me what happens if you put alcohol in a loop. Well, I know if you leave it in there long term, it's gonna damage the rubber and the plastics, but since we're changing out the tubes anyway, as long as we don't let it sit in there long enough to hurt the plastics, I think it'll help clear, or clean. Take a smell. It's like soapy vodka. Oh, shit. There's electrical plugs. You're only supposed to use like a teaspoon. All right, so after our weird concoction of dish soap, alcohol, and system prep, we're not seeing any more pieces like break off of the block and stuff. So I think that we've gotten pretty much, just pouring it everywhere. I think we've gotten pretty much everything we can break loose with hot water and all that stuff, pretty much out of here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna finish flushing out the system prep now with the rest of this gallon of hot water. And then we will go ahead and tear it apart and see what the inside of the block looks like and all that stuff. All right, we know it's gonna be gross. Like you can already see in like the threads, like how much dirt's in there. There we go. Oh, ew. But it's not as bad as it like could have been. All right, so we got a little bit of buildup inside the microchannels. Not a lot though. I mean, it's still there regardless. See, it comes apart. Like it doesn't stick to the stuff. So like, as long as you can get to it to touch it, you know, ew. All right. I was thinking I was just gonna throw a new block on here, but this is actually looking all right. Ta-da!
Tell the audience what you just came.
Well, we were joking around off camera talking about how I should do a Crest sponsorship brought to you by Jayztwocents. So this is what the LRT Primo Chill tubing looks like after more than 3 years of continuous use with a bunch of different fluids, all kinds of different makeups and not proper cleaning. I'll tell you what, it looks a lot better than I would have thought. But you can see where the bottom of the tube was because it's discolored more because a lot of that stuff in sediment just sort of set on the bottom. That's why it's clear on that side and darker on that side. But that's what new tubing looks like. So this tube on the right, or your left, I guess, right here, doesn't look as bad as some tubing I've used for less than a year that had bad plasticizers in there that would leach and turn cloudy. So this is actually not looking too bad. So we're gonna go ahead and set up the outlet here from the pump into our CPU block because it goes out from the pump into the CPU block, and then CPU block out to the rad back to the pump. And so we are going to just do that part, and then we'll maybe take the radiator fittings off and see how it looks. It's gonna be bad though, I guarantee it. So I'm actually kind of surprised that the fittings are as clean as they are because, I mean, I've had fittings get all gunked up with like the nanocell fluids and stuff in there, and this one actually turned out really good. And you can see that it's not built up on the tip of the tube either. Like sometimes you'll see it get really discolored right there, but you can see where the discoloration actually starts a little bit farther back. All right, so what does inside the radiator look like? Oh, wow. You know what? That is not as bad as I thought it'd be. Let me get my light real quick. See, the discoloring I saw in the fittings, like on the inside, because it looks whitish, but it's not. Like the rows just look like they've got a little bit of discoloration from just obviously being in contact with fluid, but I don't see white in there. It's not built up on the back wall. It's perfectly clean. Yay! That makes me feel a whole lot better. All right, we're gonna fill it up, and you know, it could turn white. I hope it doesn't. But if it does, well, we tried. Let's see what happens. It's totally gonna turn white though. It's probably still some in the pump. What? Dude. Oh. But you know what though? I could just do like another flush now. Cause that's just, I think, some of the remnants like from the pump and stuff. Cause some gets down there that doesn't leak out of here because it's below that level, you know what I mean? I would say that's clean. Would you? Would you agree? All it took was detergent, alcohol, rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, toothbrush, some Crest 3D white. Oh yeah, 5 feet of new tubing, some hot water, some distilled water, but you know, the usual. Now because we are running just distilled water now, we got to put a couple drops of this inhibitor in there, and that's going to keep us from getting growth and corrosion and all that. So we decided in preparation for endgame to do purple for Thanos.
Mr. Test Bench,
Mr. Test Bench, I don't feel so good. I don't want to go, 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 I don't want to go.
Spoiler alert.
Well, there you go. The test bed is now named Thanos. We don't know how it's going to end yet, but once it ends, then we'll change the theme to match whoever the victor is, but I bet you anything, it's not Thanos. But whatever. This went a lot better than I thought it was going to be honest. I mean, I knew I was going to change the tubes. Those tubes were entirely too old and way too stained. I thought for sure I was going to swap this radiator out, like I was going to have a hard time getting it cleaned. I mean, we ran the system prep in here for a little bit too. Not the amount of time it said to, but the water ran perfectly clear. And then I ended up using hot sink water, which you shouldn't do because of all the minerals and stuff in there. So I did hot sink water for an entire gallon worth of that. The heat really seemed to break up a lot of the stuff that was kind of residual in the loop. And then we flushed it again with another gallon of pure distilled water to clean it all out. We put our inhibitors in here, added our dye, and now we are just running a straight distilled water loop. But I'll tell you what, it kind of shows that, yeah, although some people could use this type of video is ammunition to be like, see, this is why you shouldn't water cool. I can use this video on the flip side and say, see how easy it is to recover if you have to. So this wouldn't have even been as much of a problem if it was a hardline tube, because hardline doesn't soak up the stuff like the tubes did. Remember we showed you everything was like stuck to the tubes? If we had tried to leave those tubes in here, we would have never gotten it clean, because of the fact that it's just would keep breaking off the tubes, and one little speck of that stuff just turned the whole loop white. So once we got rid of the tubes, cleaned out the components, took the block apart and cleaned it, just a little bit of labor, the cost of tubes and some water is all it took to get this loop back up and running 100%. So I figured I'd take you guys along for the ride, just give you I like to do some really unconventional methods sometimes. Like you saw, dish soap, rubbing alcohol, and yeah, hot sink water. So I don't think you should necessarily copy that. At least if you're going to, you definitely need to clean it out. But it worked. You know what they say? Well, something about no dumb ideas if it works. Something like that. The irony. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.